Okay. Good morning, bom dia, buenos días. We are going to begin with this panel. We have two panelists that are not here, but if they come, they will join us. My name is Juan Navarro Floria. I'm coming from Argentina. I'm the Vice President of the Argentine Council for Religious Liberty. I am a lawyer and teacher at the Catholic University in Buenos Aires and member of the Advisory Council of the G20 Interfaith Forum. And I have the great honor to conduct this session, this parallel session, concurrent session. I think that there is a continuity between the time of of this panel and the time of the plenary session that we has just witnessed it before, because I think that the contribution of the religions can, without any doubt, I think, make the construction of peace can be challenged by something that unfortunately is widespread in our days, which is the hate speech. We see every day how manifestations of hatred and rejection of some religious identities occur in different places, different countries, and this is amplified and magnified by social media. So we can ask, how can we contribute to counteracting those movements that threaten religious coexistence? What should religious communities and governments with different roles do to promote religious coexistence? Today we have a very significant panel made up of people from very different national origins and different religious backgrounds, who I hope that can share their experience on this matter. As a moderator, I cannot, it's not my duty to develop the topic, but let me testify something. I come from a country, Argentina, that has many problems in many areas. But if we can be proud of something, besides to be the world champions in football, but this is another thing, it is the religious coexistence. The true friendship that exists between different religious communities in our countries. The program of this meeting says that I am here as Vice President of the Argentine Council of Religious Freedom, as I said before. And this is an institution where people of very different religious beliefs work together, side by side, in this field of religious freedom. We are attentive to any situation that may harm the religious freedom of any person or community, because we know that if a person or a community sees the religious freedom harmed, we all suffer. This is our experience, our national experience, and there are some fellows of my country here, so they are going to speak about this shortly. Well, let us listen better to our speakers. I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves very, very briefly. But first of all, I give the floor to my co-moderator, Gilda, who has something to say to us, and then our speakers will make their presentations and we'll share. Elder Corbitt, please join us. Okay, no, don't worry. I won't. Gilda.
Whose lap am I going to sit on? I'm going to sit on someone's lap.
Bom dia a todos e todas. Me chamo Irenilda Aparecida Maria Francisco e a Gilda de Oxum. Estou aqui hoje no governo federal como coordenadora de promoção da liberdade religiosa no Ministério de Direitos Humanos e Cidadania, onde o nosso querido e louvado ministro Silvio Almeida nos coordena. Mas também sou Ialorixá, por isso o Iagilda. Ialorixá é dona de uma... Dona não, né? Mas regente de uma casa de candomblé de Quito. Então dá para se falar das duas situações, né? Mas vamos falar da intolerância religiosa, que eu insisto em dizer, além da intolerância, hoje o racismo é muito grande. Não é somente uma intolerância, é um racismo muito forte, né? A popularização política e a iniciação ao ódio afetam pessoas em todo o mundo. Os atores religiosos podem desempenhar um papel de cura. Não sei bem se é a cura, né? Eu acredito que é um todo, uma salvação, uma reflexão do que vem ocorrendo na realidade, em suas comunidades, por meio de sua liderança. Trabalho prático e individual com as pessoas. Suas recomendações políticas podem ajudar o governo a iniciar uma reconstrução global da nossa sociedade fragmentada. Dentro do governo, eu vou dizer um pouquinho rápido também, pelo tempo. Dentro do governo federal e dentro da pasta da liberdade religiosa, nós trabalhamos com um produto muito que está dando certo. Dialogando, a gente se entende. Diálogo interreligioso. Que a gente ouve, que nós ouvimos, né? A sociedade civil. E dessa forma a gente faz um plano, nós ouvimos e estamos fazendo um projeto para a política pública, para poder ajudar. Mas eu acredito que, além de política pública, além do governo, nós temos que ter uma reconstrução dentro de nós. O que é o amor? O que é respeitar o próximo? E o que é respeitar o ideal do próximo? Todo mundo aqui com a sua fé, todo mundo aqui com a sua crença, mas lá fora a coisa é mais séria e nós sabemos disso. Então, eu vou deixar aqui um momento de reflexão. Quem somos nós? O que o Deus universal realmente nos trouxe para fazer aqui. Hoje, nesse exato momento, me sinto honrada em estar aqui fazendo parte do G20, com tanto líder religioso. E eu vou deixar essa pergunta, na realidade, pairada no ar e para vocês refletirem. Quem somos nós? De verdade. Um bom dia a todos.
Obrigado. Elder Corbitt, do you want to begin?
Happy to take your lead.
Hi, the microphone. Can we have something?
Please tell us who you are and then your speech. Thank you.
I'm Ahmed Salim Corbitt. I am a general authority with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. A general authority is a leader with worldwide authority to help govern the church. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I'm honored. I've gotten to know many of you already and feel like we're friends, and so thank you. Let me just briefly say a couple of the things our church attempts to do in this field of religion, civility, and healing polarization is to, I would say, three things, and they're brief. One is to maintain our focus on God, on faith, on less being we feel like by being focused on the divine, we naturally come together, naturally do what's right, both for other individuals and for the environment. Another is our tenet to, and let me just read it. It's one of our articles of faith that not many people are aware of. This is a fundamental belief of our church in our articles of faith. We claim the privilege of worshiping Almighty God according to the dictates of our own conscience and allow all men, and this was written in the 1800s, so meaning all people, the same privilege. Let them worship how, where, or what they may. And we support that. We mean that. In addition, we believe in being subject to kings, presidents, rulers, and magistrates in obeying, honoring, and sustaining the law. Two key points there that I believe if religions and civil society focused on generally, we could significantly increase civility and heal polarization, including political polarization. And lastly, the third, I love Elder Soares's metaphor of the mangroves in Brazil. Wasn't that brilliant? That this system of roots come together, help each other, keep the environment together and healthy, and if it ever fractured or separated, so would go the environment as well. We very much believe that about our people, about religions generally, and about believers and non-believers. If we can come together around specific principles, the basics, the ideals, the constitutional ideals that we all seek, that are self-evident, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, peace, unity, we will be effective and powerful. I think we all will work toward increased healing and civility. For now, that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Elder Suarez says in the past session something very important. I think if the churches and the religious communities can work together, government will follow us. So this is a very important thought, I think, that we can share maybe at this moment.
And our Danish friend, the doctor, said, we are government.
We are government, yes. We vote.
Yes.
Not in every country, but in many countries we can vote. Yes. Please, Mr. Ramin Mammadov, introduce yourself and we hear you. The floor is yours.
Good morning to everybody, distinguished guests and honorable delegates from different countries. I'm Ramin Mammadov. I'm chairman of the State Committee on Affairs with Religious Affairs Associations. I came from Azerbaijan. It's far away. This is small in geographical manner, but very important key player in the region in terms of multiculturalism, interfaith, and interreligious dialogue. We had huge experience how to overcome the challenges regarding the interfaith dialogue and how Azerbaijan leaves no one behind. And then during the next session, I will try briefly to introduce Azerbaijan experience in this field. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Mejindarpal Kaur is this is
I'm Mejindarpal Kaur. I probably will take the unique position of looking at the problem from the perspective of the law and how it protects religious groups or non-religious groups from hate crime, hate speech, and not only for religious groups, but racial groups as well, as Irene pointed out, needs to be done. So when my time comes, I will speak about how that's rampant, especially on social media.
Novamente, bom dia. Luka Mosoma.
Good morning, colleagues.
Yes.
My name is Luka David Mosoma. I come from South Africa. I'm a former chairperson of the CRL Rights Commission. And this commission is responsible for the protection and promotion of the rights of cultural, religious, and linguistic communities. By that understanding, we are responsible for ensuring that in defining religion is not only a singular religion, all religions, indigenous, traditional, all of them, they are protected and promoted. South Africa is one of the younger democracies. We have learned in history, through lived experience, that hate is not what a person is born with. Hate, intolerance is taught. If hate, intolerance can be taught, people can be taught to love. And of course, this is the words of our statesman, our former President Mandela. Now, I want to indicate to us that those who know must do, and those who understand must teach. The interplay between knowing and doing is what is a problem in our world today, including my country. We know peace cognitively. We don't know how to be peaceful. We know justice as a word. We don't know how to be just. We know honor as a word, but we don't know how to be honorable. There's a disjuncture between knowledge and action. And what this topic today requires of us is the interplay between knowing and doing, between believing and faith-driven action. In South Africa, 2 pieces of legislation have been developed to deal with hate speech and discrimination. And 1 piece of deals with intolerances that exists. Now, you need to create a deterrent, not just talk about. People must know that when you do something against your brother and your sister, it's punishable by law. And while you make provisions that you create a relationship of bonding, of working together, of peace, but it must be driven. And we believe, from our perspective, that the CRL rights is an engine and catalyst to draw within itself all communities in our country along the very key principle, among which is Ubuntu. Ubuntu is an overarching moral and ethical principle upon which all other values hang. When we talk about Ubuntu, we talk about love, justice, peace, collaboration, reconciliation. All are built together under this one concept, Ubuntu. As a commission, we are mandated to promote peace, humanity, friendship, tolerance, unity, equality, and social understanding among communities. And this, we believe, can assist communities throughout the world. Thank you so much.
Juan Cruz.
Buenos días. Yo hablaré en español, aunque creo que muchos pueden entender el portugués también. Soy Juan Cruz, presidente de la Alianza Evangélica Latina, hoy con presencia en los 22 países, incluidos Estados Unidos y España, con una representación aproximada de 500.000 iglesias evangélicas aproximadamente. Y yo le agradezco la invitación y es un tema muy importante para nosotros. Religión, civismo y polarización, la intolerancia religiosa, la polarización política y el discurso de odio afectan a personas en todo el mundo. Los actores religiosos pueden desempeñar un papel de curación muy importante dentro de sus comunidades a través del liderazgo, trabajo práctico y por supuesto con la gente. Nuestras recomendaciones pueden ayudar inclusive a gobiernos para iniciar la reconstrucción global de nuestras sociedades fragmentadas. Creo que los líderes religiosos podemos ayudar a promover la comprensión, la compasión y el diálogo entre diferentes grupos. Debemos trabajar en promover documentos claros y ahí dejar muy bien pactado en qué áreas podemos trabajar juntos y fortalecer esas áreas sin que sea un conflicto interno. Pues cuando existen conflictos internos es donde ocurre el aislamiento entre los credos e inicia el discurso de odio entre los mismos credos unos con otros. Como evangélicos, vemos con buenos ojos el trabajo conjunto en defensa de la vida, la familia, la libertad religiosa, la prevención en la salud en general, el tema migratorio, catástrofes naturales. Creo que ahí todas las religiones podemos unirnos en trabajar juntos a favor de los más necesitados. Podemos, con nuestra influencia y autoridad moral, condenar el odio y promover la unidad de todos. Además, sus recomendaciones de políticas pueden ser valiosas para los gobiernos, ya que pueden ayudar a iniciar la reconstrucción de nuestras sociedades fragmentadas. Es importante que los actores religiosos aborden estos problemas de una manera que respete la diversidad y los derechos fundamentales de todos. Debemos fomentar el entendimiento mutuo y sanar las divisiones en lugar de exacerbarlas. Solo a través del esfuerzo concentrado de líderes religiosos, políticos y de la sociedad civil podemos lograr una mayor cohesión social y una paz duradera. Gracias.
Daniela Chaves.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. Thank you. It's really an honor to be here. I have the enormous privilege to have in charge the official religious affairs for a local government from Salta, Argentina, a city from the north. And I want to thank this opportunity because it's really a great opportunity being part of a currently government to have this inputs that we have, this opportunity, it will be very valuable. I want to thank KSC also because I'm a fellow, and thanks that I have the opportunity to be here. And according to the topic of the panel, undoubtedly, in this time in which the level of violence, religious intolerance, and hate speech have increased substantially across the globe, it is imperative to join efforts to heal and rebuild our society. And it is a shared responsibility of all actors, governments, civil society, faith-based organizations, and us as individuals. I truly believe that it will be very beneficial for governments to have the support and experience of religious leaders in addressing critical situations. And it is faith-based organizations that are on the forefront, on the ground, addressing the most urgent demands of the populations. Faith-based organizations or religious communities have a distinguished features that distinguish them from the other civil society organizations. And it is their love of their neighbor, and they're willing to help, no matter what, no matter your religions, it's just they are there to help to wherever it needs. But at the same time, I'm convinced that in order for this synergy to happen, governments, local governments specifically, must first raise awareness and make visible this religious diversity that exists in their own jurisdictions. Public management of religious diversity must be based mainly on listening and dialogue in order to design and implement inclusive public policies. And the contributions of the religious leaders are inputs for the creation of these policies. It is the responsibility of governments to train and educate their agents, it's imperative, of religious freedoms and to provide them the necessary tools to meet the demands of the religious diversity that coexists already in Argentina. As Juan mentioned, in Argentina, we fortunately don't have that kind of problem of religions problem, but we have to work, we don't have to lay down this. And then respect for differences in people's beliefs is fundamental to develop of stable and peaceful societies. It's mandatory, I will say. I think that especially in our region in Latin America, even today, this relation diversity that is not necessarily visible. And consequently, they are not taken into account as voices when it comes to decision making. They don't have the opportunity to sit at the small table, as we usually say. Effort must be joined with the objective of building a better and sustainable world because we all deserve a decent life, everyone. I would like also to highlight the reality of my province, where a great religious diversity coexists peacefully and where there is no factor of conflict between them, as it generally is the case throughout Argentina, which demonstrates and reaffirms the idea that religions are not in themselves a source of conflict, but that misinformation and sometimes politicizations of certain sensitive issues are, not the religions themselves. But it's precisely to avoid this that it's necessary to work together, faith-based organizations and government, with respect and empathy, so that when any kind of conflicts or issues arise, it can be dealt with in the best possible way, because there is already a work done in this area. We already know each other. I know where you are, what is your work, how many of you are. It's very important to us. And then, sorry, I just, and then I lost it. So we can deal with this possible way because there's already, I already said, a previous work is done. Promoting common values across religions such as justice, compassion, and respect can help reduce polarizations by focusing on what unites rather than what divides. And to conclude, I would like to mention that if the contribution of religions leaders is valuable, so is the work of the community themselves. The richness of working together can be seen in the day-to-day, in the daily contact. Is there where the trust and respect in the dialogue of life is generated. Personally, I feel privileged to be able to work in a local government to recognize the importance of the work of religion organization. But I'm aware that there is so much to be done. But I wanted to, has already been mentioned in this room, I think yesterday, I truly choose to be a prisoner of hope, and I really expect that this kind of opportunity give me a lot of inputs to be shown, so be including public policy, really inclusive, and to make a real impact, because I think the dialogue in the high levels, it exists, but I think we have to work in the root, in the grassroots, in what really happened in our territory together, governments, civil societies, faith-based organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniela. Before to open the floor for questions and comments, I think that some of you will share your thoughts because you only make a presentation. But let me say something, because hearing the first comments, I was thinking that we only can love that we know. And I was thinking about the importance of the religious literacy, because we need to know the other, to love the other, to be able to work together and to make a contribution together to the society. But this is a big issue. Maybe in the dialogue later we can explore this issue. Please, those who have something to say, yes?
I think. Okay.
Yes, Ramin was asking the. Maybe? And.
Thank you so much. Actually, during the brief introduction of my personality and the job we've done, I mentioned that Azerbaijan is a small in geographical manner, but has a great experience in terms of multicultural and the interfaith dialogues. And with your permission, I will just make a short presentation of what we have and how we overcome the challenges in terms of intercultural inter-religion dialogue. In the time of globalization, respect for the diversity has become paramount in maintaining social cohesion. Thus, a key responsibility of states and international organizations is to foster an environment of religious tolerance and inter-religious dialogue, ensuring that every faith is respected and valued. Azerbaijan, situated at the crossroads of civilizations, exemplifies a model of harmonious interreligious and intercultural relations within multicultural society. This exemplary model is rooted in the ethnic characteristics of Azerbaijani people, as well as the historical, social, economic conditions that have shaped interfaith relationship in the region. For centuries, faiths have coexisted peacefully in Azerbaijan, devoid of any religious conflict. This tradition of religious freedom, religious and ethnic tolerance has become a main element of Azerbaijani identity. In Baku, a capital city celebrated for its tolerance, mosques, churches, and synagogues stand side by side, and a testament to the harmonious coexistence of diverse faith communities. As stated by the President of Azerbaijan, Mr. Ilham Aliyev, Azerbaijan has consistently exemplified a model of tolerance and inclusivity. Throughout the centuries, representatives of all religion and ethnic groups have lived in peace in our country, fostering a spirit of friendship and mutual understanding. Azerbaijan is a multi-confessional, multi-ethnic nation, and our religious and ethnic diversity is our greatest asset. Religious and national tolerance, multiculturalism, and respect for all faiths have been instrumental in Azerbaijan's successful development and stability. The restoration, reconstruction, and protection of historical and religious monuments, holy sites, and sanctuaries are integral to Azerbaijan's religious policy, reflecting the state's profound respect for religion and national spiritual values. The Azerbaijani government has played a pivotal role in this endeavor, and in this context has not only restored and repaired numerous mosques and shrines, but also dedicated significant resources to the restoration of Christian and Jewish monuments. Azerbaijan's commitment to preserving cultural heritage extends beyond its border. As the first Muslim country to do so, Azerbaijan, through its relevant institutions, contributed to the restoration of the catacombs of St. Marcellinus, Pietro, and St. Sebastian in the Vatican, and allocated funds for the repair of the Notre Dame Cathedral in France. In the face of this adversity, Azerbaijan has turned a new page, embracing the new reality in the region. We are actively engaged in reconstruction efforts in the liberated territories, restoring all historical and religious monuments, regardless of their affiliation or religious and cultural significance. This includes the restoration of Muslim, Christian, Jewish, and other places of worship. In closing, I would like to emphasize that the greatest gift of religion is the fostering of unity and harmony among people. The collective voices of religious leaders denouncing racial and religious discrimination, extremism, and separatism can play a pivotal role in establishing peace and stability worldwide. I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to share my thoughts with such an esteemed audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do you want to add something to your presentation? Me?
Okay, as I hinted earlier, I will be focusing on how the law that is meant to protect groups, either under sedition or specific laws that disallow hate speech, operate and don't operate. The example I'll be using is, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I do a lot of work there, is the subcontinent of India. I'll just get to the right page. So hate speech in particular, as opposed to the examples we've heard about how sites can be desecrated or religious freedom can be denied. Hate speech is a particular area I want to cover because it involves one religious group or one cultural or one racial group making comments that incite violence as well as hatred between the groups or within society. The most recent example in the UK was the riots that everyone asked me about, which didn't affect where I was sitting, it was Islamophobia, but it was based on immigration. So that's a belief that a country should not have immigrants. So that's a freedom of belief that they talked about. That resulted in situations where somebody would be spitting at a bus driver who is a Muslim and saying, we don't want you here. And it's Islamophobia because he's a Muslim, but the motivation of the person who is offending is the motivation of immigration. So it's a mixed bag of what causes the person to have hate speech or a hate crime. But where there is law and order, whilst the law does not prevent the hate crime or hate speech, It didn't in the UK, but at least they were able to nip it in the bud, and people were getting, prison sentences within the week of the riots taking place. In contrast, we have in India a scenario where, and we are talking about this because this is a safe space, and it has always been in the interfaith arena that we could talk about it, but we must do something about what we're about to say, which is that the Christian pastors in the state of Punjab will be fomenting venom against the practices of Hindus or Sikhs, which may well sometimes be cultural practices, but couched as, you are now a Christian, why are you practicing those pagan practices? So that's hate speech. And no action is taken. No action is taken because, first of all, it takes something for a community to want to go to the law for help. And even when they do, no action is taken. That's in the Punjab. Then if you go to Manipur, you would have the same community being persecuted. So the Christians who were the ones perpetrating hate speech in Punjab will be the same category of religious group in Manipur who are victims of hate speeches and hate considerations, and also the Muslims. So it's not about which religion is being persecuted. It's whoever is in the majority position, whoever is in a political position of being the victim or the oppressor. So the solution here may well be you say if you know and therefore you love and therefore you will not say it. But it's more than that when it comes to hate speech. Most of the hate speech cases are about proselytization, about conversions, about, this is a Hindu state and there should be no Muslim, or this is a Christian area and there should be no one else. So that's not about the religion. So what I want to put to this panel, including the people in the audience, is how can interfaith groups like ours stem that? We had a situation not of hate speech, but in the UK when a Christian church had called for an invitation to Sikhs to come to Christ. Now, a lot of Sikhs found that insulting because are you suggesting there's something wrong with their religion? It was amicably settled when within PARD, the Christian groups and I, representing the Sikh community, were able to talk to the organizers as opposed to the people who drafted that poster perhaps, and that was put to an end. So I want to highlight that when it comes to hate speech, the perpetrator is using anger and aiming it at a certain group, whether it's religious or racial or immigration category or whatever it is. And but religion is being used as the bogeyman, because surely it's not Christianity who is saying that there's something wrong in being a Sikh or being a Muslim, but it's the people practicing it, using these sharp practices in their calling for people to their religion.
Yes, please.
Do you mind if I speak to that and just add to? It's a great question. I'm glad you put it to us, and I think the challenge maybe for some religions or congregations is to speak candidly to their congregants. Do I tell you what you need to know, or do I tell you what you want to hear? And that's a huge challenge, I think, in religion across the world. President Russell M. Nelson, the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, said this in a recent talk to all of our community worldwide across some 80-something languages and 190 or so countries. He said, vulgarity, fault-finding, and evil speaking of others are all too common. Too many pundits, politicians, entertainers, and other influencers throw insults constantly. I am greatly concerned that so many people seem to believe that it is completely acceptable to condemn, malign, and vilify anyone who does not agree with them. Many seem eager to damage another's reputation with pathetic and pithy barbs. He admitted, regrettably, we sometimes see contentious behavior even within our own ranks. We have to be honest and tell it like it is, to use an old phrase. We hear of those who belittle spouses, of children, those who use angry outbursts, as you mentioned anger. He said, anger never persuades, hostility builds no one. One other thing, in a different talk, he said this, each of us has a divine potential because each is a child of God. Each is equal in his eyes. The implications of this truth are profound. Brothers and sisters, talking to us and our friends, please listen carefully to what I am about to say. He said, God does not love one race more than another. This kind of truth that's bold has to be told. And I think as we each in our various communities tell the truth like this, come what may, if people can't stand to hear it or want to leave, well, that's their choice. But it has to be told. I assure you, he says his doctrine on God's doctrine on this matter is clear. He then quotes the Book of Mormon, which states, he invites all to come unto him, black and white, bond and free, male and female. He then says, I assure you that your standing before God is not determined by the color of your skin. I grieve that our black brothers and sisters the world over are enduring the pains of racism and prejudice. Today, I call upon all our members everywhere to lead, not just to abandon prejudice, not just to do something about it, but listen to this, to lead out in abandoning attitudes and actions of prejudice. I plead with you to promote respect for all God's children. All that to say that we're not perfect at it. We in an organization of 17 million people, there are people with all kinds of problems, as there are in all of our communities. But we have to tell the truth, and we have to be direct and candid about it, if I may.
Thank you very much. Luka, you wanted to say something?
I stated earlier on that no one is born to hate another person. We are socialized to hate. And until we deal with character formation, habituation, to ensure a new person arises from the old, for me, it speaks to conversion. We are converted to Christ. But we need a second conversion. Conversion to the other, which I think is what is implicit in the second commandment. Love yourself as you love your neighbor. In South Africa, because of being socialized by a system of hate, the system of apartheid, we still have a residues today, despite the fact that the government has set up a commission which protects the rights of cultural, religious, and linguistic communities across the board. Everybody is included. No one is left behind. Despite those efforts, we still, not very long, in one of our schools, it's girls' schools, where the white children, white girls, were beginning to talk ill about the black girls in girls' school. So these things are part of socialization. And of course, the Dutch Reformed Church was a religious organization, church organization. It was only in 1977 in Ottawa where the Dutch Reformed Church was expelled from the world body for its racial, support. So we need deterrence. We cannot harbor people who continue to hate others, because if we do, we perpetuate the system of hate. Let's use that, but lovingly. If they can, of course, we'll accommodate them. But there's no way in which we can continue to build a world of hate, intolerance ad infinitum. That's what we're confronted with. And leaders must take decisive decisions. But because leaders are there to lead, and they must lead by example. That in our society, this is the society we seek to build. We invite you to become catalyst in building this society. Bring your contribution. And our society, it should be intolerant free. It should be hate free. This is the society. Come and participate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that we can open the floor for the questions, but I was thinking maybe what could be the result of this conversation, because there are some questions or some demands to the religious leaders, I think. How do they make their work to increase the collaboration, the appreciation between religions? And there are other demands to the political leaders. The G20 is a meeting of political leaders. What do we want to ask the religious, the political leaders to promote the coexistence between religions, between different conceptions of life and so on? But please, I don't know who is going to help us, you, with the questions. We are open the floor to make questions. Please, each one of you, identify yourself, say who you are, from where, and the question or the comment, and if it's to any of the panel or for one precisely. Here we have one question, number 2, the lady there, and number 3, and 4, well, 5, yes. We are going to make 4 or 5 questions, and then we answer. Okay? Please.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name's Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome. I'm from Kenya.
It's not working.
Yeah, I know it is working, I can tell you. Thank you very much. My name's Sheikh Ibrahim Lethome. I'm a Muslim religious leader from Kenya, and I'm one of the people who believe that none of our religious beliefs that talk about hatred to one another. But let me go straight to my comment here. A good doctor is not one that will focus on treating the symptoms. A good doctor is one who will diagnose and find out the root cause of the disease. The question that we need to ask ourselves here is this: what is the root cause of racism, hate speech, and whatever we have against one another, and intolerance? I think we need to look at that. And for me, from where I sit or where I stand, the problem is not in our religious teachings. The problem is in the misinterpretation of religious teachings, misrepresentation of religious teachings, and that is where the problem is. Because when I listened to my brother Ahmad here from the Church of the Latter Saints, talking about the Bible or his book, talking about loving one another, I thought you're quoting from the Quran or from the teachings of my faith, because I am told that none of us is a believer. I am not a true believer unless I love for others what I love for myself. So this is across the board, and I believe this is the teaching in every religion. So the problem is not with the religion, but misinterpretation of religion. You said, for you to love the religious other, or the person who doesn't look like you need to know that person. I think we don't have to begin from knowing the other person. I don't have to begin by knowing the Christians, the Jews, the Hindus. I need to begin with myself to understand what does my religion tell me about the religious other. This is what I tell my Muslim brothers. The Quran tells us that you have to respect the faith of the other person because diversity, whether it is racial, ethnic, or religious, is not an accident. It is God's plan. I quote from the Quran. Quran chapter 11, verse 118 tells me so clearly. And had your Lord so willed, he's telling to Muhammad, peace be upon him, had your Lord so willed, he would have made all the people into one community. But it is his will that we are diverse. And when he moved from Makkah to Medina, he found there idol worshippers, he found Jews and Christians, and the first thing he did is to go back in the Quran and it tells him there is no compulsion in religion. Step number one. Step number two, you have your faith and I have my faith. So he had to establish the first multi-religious, multi-ethnic society living together in harmony. And he came up with the Constitution of Medina. I want to say this, and my brother Ahmad, you said it very well. We need to be candid. In this forum here, we can talk nicely to one another. We need to dialogue, talk with each other, tolerate one another. But what about that small church in the village? What about that mosque in the village? What do they preach on Friday? For me, this is what is very important. We need to cascade this dialogue, my brother Ahmed, to the lowest level. And we need to be candid. We don't have to tell our congregations what they want to hear. We need to tell them candidly the truth about how we need to accommodate one another. I don't like the word tolerating one another, and I want you to test it at home. Go home and tell your wife, I am tolerating you, and see whether you'll get supper that day. It's mutual respect.
Thank you. It's not only tolerance, but please, here.
Thank you so much for the presentations that we heard from everyone. My name is Faith, and I'm from South Africa. Just sitting here and listening to the conversations that have been had, I couldn't help but consider children and how we are going about in terms of addressing some of these needs. We're talking about hate speech and countering that and so forth. And I truly believe that it is at an early developmental stage within the school environment where we can begin nurturing the mindsets of ensuring those that are young, that they don't enter into this context. So I think my question is seated now at a place where I'm wondering, what is it that the interfaith space is doing within the school environments to actually address some of these polarizations that are unfolding. And I think it was triggered by what Professor David had just shared about what was happening in South Africa as well. I think we can get to a level of achieving a lot if we begin with children as well within the school environment. So I'm just interested in that as well.
Thank you very much. Very good question. Here we have another.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Bani Dugal, and I represent the Baha'i International Community to the United Nations. I come from New York. I am originally from India, where I practiced law before moving to the United States. And understanding secular societies from the Indian standpoint, where there's pluralistic religions all coexisting together, and then coming to a country where freedom of expression is prime in the United States. And then, of course, we have the European model where hate speech is sometimes penalized depending on the context. So from a UN standpoint, the antidote to hate speech is more positive speech. So allowing for a right to respond. So when there's hate speech, yes, nobody says it's a good thing, but to ban speech is actually adding to the problem. It's about opening up spaces where there can be conversations. I always learn a lot from Sheikh Lethome from Kenya, and what he was talking about, we could have, every religion talks about loving the other, welcoming the other. But then there are the cases where there may be an individual or a small community that's spreading hate. That is what we need to tackle as a society. And we do so by opening up more spaces. There's also the question of political will, which Mr. Mammadov spoke about in Azerbaijan. They open up these spaces for talk about multiculturalism. And I think the more countries that actually take that on and start talking about the beauty of diversity of their societies, the less the problems are going to be. And then the lady who talked about education of children, we can educate children in schools, but if they go home and they hear their parents using pejorative terms about their neighbors, much of what they've learned in school is going to be undone. I think it's faith communities and religious leaders that have the responsibility to inculcate that the higher principles that every faith talks about in their communities.
Main responsibility is of the parents, but also the schools, I think. The last question and then the answers, please.
Ya teníamos otro. Yo le quiero decir que
Yes. Buen día, buena tarde a todos ustedes. Mi nombre es Iván Bonilla, vengo desde Colombia, soy el único colombiano acá y sirvo como presidente del Comité de Libertad Religiosa para Bogotá en Colombia y para la Federación de Comités de Libertad Religiosa que creó la política pública en Colombia y que agremia o reúne a todas las iglesias y religiones del país. Y mi compañera Joana va a traducir esta parte.
Sorry. Well, Ivan is from Colombia. He is the only person from Colombia here, and he is the president of Freedom Religion Committee in Bogotá. And they made a law about the freedom religion in that country.
Considero que la primera polarización que existe en nosotros es en el lenguaje interreligioso. Permitimos que en nuestras congregaciones crean falsamente que tienen sus verdades y que eso les hace mejor que otras religiones.
He believes that the first polarization happens between the religions, when one religion believes that they are better than the another religions.
Es así como hermanos cristianos evangélicos hablan de los hermanos musulmanes, o los hermanos musulmanes, de los hermanos judíos, y permitimos que eso ocurra. Eso ocurría o está ocurriendo en mi país.
it happened like when the Christians believe that they are better than Muslim and the Muslim better than the Jews, and it's happening on his country.
Cuando creamos la política pública en Colombia, nos enfocamos en un valor humano que es la libertad. Y pensamos que defender la libertad como un valor inalienable al ciudadano hace que acabemos con la polarización, porque todos consideramos que el bien inmaculado es la libertad.
When they created the public politic about this topic in Colombia, they focus on a human value, which is the freedom. And they are focused that freedom is the biggest value to make people respect one each other.
Mi pregunta podría ser, ¿qué piensan si la libertad de creer, defender la libertad de creer, sea la bandera que como organizaciones religiosas podamos liderar para evitar la polarización?
His question is how we can use the freedom of belief as the
flag.
The flag to make all the religions to be together and not hate one each other, but as the biggest value to make the union. Sorry for my English. I'm trying. I'm Brazilian. Sorry.
Thank you for the translation. The panel maybe has some answers to the questions, and then we give to the floor again.
I wanted to. Okay, I will start trying to answer in the comment or the answer that the Sheikh made. I think that you, according to what you have said, the answer is promoting dialogue in your home, in your community, and then go further. I think this related also with education and at home. I don't know. I think, and I was thinking in the other panel what I think the one of the participants says, individual. We as individuals have a lot of responsibility. And I don't know, for example, I try to, I'm not talking now like an officer of government, but also as a mom, I try to show to my kids the religious diversity which is present in Salta, in my own country, in my own province. I try to tell them that there's people that believe in something, there's people that don't believe in anything, but you have to be respectful. And I think that's the key. And you don't have right to say anything awkward about the religion of the other, even if they don't believe. So, but trying this to the currently day to the politics and to public policies, I think we have to plant the seeds. And with little actions, but working hand by hand with the communities, but in the grassroots, what happened in your neighbor, in your schools, and try to, with small actions, try to work, and we will have benefits. I'm sure of that. But we have to, and another things that I according to the Sheikh mentions, of course, one of the principles of dialogue, interfaith dialogue, is you must be self-confident about your faith. And when you are confident in your faith, you are able to talk with others. So there's a lot of work to do, but we have the clue from where we can start. Thank you.
Thank you. I want also attempt to answer the Sheikh's question. In our commission in South Africa, we realized that limitations of talking about the issues of nation building, dealing with intolerance, hate speech at a high level. So in terms of the Commission, there is a provision for establishment of community councils at different levels. So these matters cascade down to the lowest level: regional, provincial, national. And this is one way of bringing all these groupings together to look at the issues that affect them on a daily basis. And I think it's a good thing to do that, yeah, because then you have the support of the communities that are affected by such a problem. Thank you. The second one has to do with the access and socialization of the early childhood development process. I spoke about character building. Some of you who have read Aristotle will understand the role of habituation, because creating a habit makes you amenable all the time that what you do is consistent with your character, and you can't do that which is adversarial or anti your character. When you're a swimmer, you don't get into a pool one day and be a swimmer. You become a swimmer because when you see water, it calls into question your ability to swim. That's habit. And when young people are habituated early enough, they will be able to act and behave in a way that is consistent with the values that have shaped them. So that's a very important element. The last one has to do with the hate speech. What we're not saying most of the time is that no right is absolute. No right is absolute. The rights are limited. In South Africa, we have created, in terms of the legislation, one legislation is prevention of combating the hate crime and hate speech. So this is a legislation that covers the entire spectrum of people's behavior with regard to the crime, hate crimes and hate speech. The other one is the Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act. Unfair discrimination. In other words, there's a fair discrimination, there's unfair discrimination. So it's provided for in the Act what you qualify to discriminate against, why you don't qualify to discriminate against. Okay. Thank you so much.
Novamente, vou falar como moderadora e como coordenadora de promoção da liberdade religiosa. Para você, minha linda. Bom, primeiramente eu vou dizer uma coisa. Ninguém quer ser tolerado, né? Nós queremos ser respeitados. Respeitados e amados. Que isso, eu acredito que, independente de religião, o ser humano quer ser respeitado. Em relação às crianças, aqui no governo do Brasil, com o nosso governo Lula, nós estamos implantando o Ministério de Direitos Humanos e Cidadania. Nós estamos agora começando a ter um diálogo com o MEC, falando sobre... veio para nós uma responsabilidade de criança e adolescente. Está ali a minha coordenadora, a minha assessora, que chegou para nós essa pasta, nessa responsabilidade. Mas eu vou dizer uma coisa para vocês, como líder religiosa, como mãe e como avó, criei 4 homens, que não foi fácil, e hoje tenho 8 netos, e a maioria homens. Eu digo que a grande intolerância começa dentro de casa com as crianças, porque vem aqueles mimimi, né? Homem não pode fazer isso, mulher não pode fazer isso. Olha, homem não chora. Aí já começa a grande intolerância. E acredito no que você disse, por isso que o ministro Silvio Almeida falou sobre isso conosco por esses dias. É na escola. Existe no governo uma palavra dita assim, que eu acho que é meio estranha, e vamos tentar mudar, né? Curso de capacitação. Eu acho estranho porque você está dizendo para o ser humano que ele não é capaz e que ele tem que estudar para ser capaz, mas não é bem essa a realidade. Nós temos também uma preocupação muito grande com as crianças e com os idosos. E, por coincidência, dentro da minha religião, que é afro-brasileira, que é candomblé de Queto, como eu disse a vocês, nós também temos preocupação com as crianças e com os idosos. E o nosso governo, Lula, Ministério de Direitos Humanos e Cidadania, nós temos uma secretaria que saiu agora, porque o ano passado ainda nós estávamos em uma grande reconstrução desse ministério, né? Que é a Secretaria dos Idosos, de Crianças e Adolescentes. E estávamos falando sobre isso, né? Das cartilhas, nós aqui temos assim nós fizemos uma parceria com a UFO sobre cartilhas, sobre reeducação nas escolas. Não é de religião, e sim de cultura. E eu acredito que o que você me perguntou, eu acredito que você tenha entendido um pouco. E a sua preocupação, nós estamos começando no Brasil, e a intenção, e essa intenção eu acredito que tem que ser humanitária num todo para ir para o mundo, porque o que será das nossas crianças se não ensinarmos a ela agora o respeito ao próximo, o respeito aos seus e amor próprio? E eu espero que eu tenha respondido a sua pergunta.
Obrigado, Gilda. We have only a few minutes, but there are some comments. There, the first one. Raise your hand. Yes.
Hi, Medlir Mema, originally from Albania. I'm a professor of international law at Brigham Young University, Idaho, and a researcher in Brussels on AI and global governance. I just had a question for Ms. Kaur and then Elder Corbitt, because I think the issues are related together. Ms. Kaur, you said something very interesting about what I consider proselyting efforts. Would you consider missionary proselyting efforts hate speech? Because, you know, the message in many ways come my way, right? Whether it's Christian or Muslim or other kinds of religion. So does a proselyting religious message constitute hate speech? And Elder Corbitt, we've heard a lot over the last 2 days about indigenous rights and protections. And I think others can perhaps respond to this question as well, but how do we reconcile that focus on indigenous rights and protections with some religions, and I'd argue most religious beliefs, that they have a divine mandate to spread their message? So how do you kind of relieve that tension? How do you deal with that? How do you work through that? Or maybe you don't, I don't know. But if you can respond, both of you, those questions and others. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alejandro, here, at the middle.
Thank you. Okay. So thanks all of you for your very interesting points of view. And one of the previous questions raised a concern that it's very interesting and important regarding this fact of countering polarization, overcoming polarization. That is the fact that we need to fight hate speech without violating freedom of speech. And overcoming polarization deals with much of these tensions. You need to, at a certain point, ignore hate speech, but you have to get in when human rights are at risk. We need to exclude, to sanction, but within the limits of democracy. You need to counter-mobilize, but without fueling violence. And of course, you need to include also through dialogue, but without strengthening the legitimation of those anti-pluralist movements. So, don't you think we could do more within our religious communities in the specific task of reflecting on how we, as religious communities, build the narratives of our collective identity? Because communities are important. For example, me as Catholic, the communities is at the core of our way of living our faith. But you can build a narrative around your collective identity that includes the possibility to coexist your identity as a Catholic with your identity as an Argentinian citizen, for example, in my case, and with your identity as a global citizen. And there are also narratives that exclude this coexistence. So do you think that we need to pay more attention to this specific task within our communities? That will be the answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The last question there.
Oi, meu nome é Álvaro, eu sou do Uruguai, sou membro da Fundação Roble del Sur. Eu vou fazer minha pergunta em português e traduzir em espanhol, porque quero fazer a Elder Corbitt e também ao Reverendo Cruz. Eu sou líder também de uma pequena igreja no Uruguai, uma pequena unidade da minha igreja. Então, eu estou bem de acordo com o que estavam falando sobre que nós, por estarmos aqui, compartilhamos uma série de códigos, linguagem que não sempre isso se traduz em nossas comunidades locais. Então, gostaria de ouvir do Reverendo Cruz e também do Elder Corbitt boas práticas que eles têm visto em suas unidades locais que ajudam nisto a fomentar o respeito e a tolerância, combatir a intolerância religiosa. Então, eu sou do Uruguai e quisiera hacer una pregunta al Elder Corbitt y al Reverendo Cruz sobre, porque estoy de acuerdo que nosotros manejamos códigos y lenguajes que son compartidos, pero ¿cómo hacer para que eso llegue a las unidades locales de nuestras religiones y iglesias? Entonces, quisiera escuchar de ustedes buenas prácticas, cómo han realizado eso. Gracias.
Okay, we have direct questions to Elder Corbitt and to Juan Cruz. And you, okay. Oh, please. No, gee. Ladies before.
I don't know if our interpreter has gone for lunch, but I didn't hear the last bit, but I will answer the question from the professor of law. Proselytization now sounds like a bad word, but if you just go to the dictionary meaning, it's what's provided for in the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, where you have an absolute right to have and to change your religion. It's the methods that are being used, where hate speech is used, where this, this is a safe space, so I can say, the Christians tend to say, you have one wife, one mother. How can you have so many gods? Something I heard on a video this morning. So why berate your misunderstanding of another's professions, of their religion, whether they call it many gods or many manifestations of the qualities of God. But that's not the method to do it. So if you want to exalt the meaning of one God, do it positively. Why condemn the other person's practices? So maybe we have to change the word proselytization, but yeah, so you have a right to change your religion. If my forefathers hadn't changed their religion, I wouldn't be a Sikh. But the methods used are important. Did I answer your question? And I think I do want to add something to religious education in schools, if I may. So in the UK, there is religious education, at least in the state sector of education. And if you get any funding from the state, you also have to have it. Yes, we grumble about the content, but in particular the Sikh faith, which is usually misunderstood because of the form, religious education helps because kids are very curious. They want to know, how long is your hair? Why do you wear this kirpan? So you get past it. But when, as Bunny said, a child goes home and the parents are not talking about your form, but they're talking about your practices, then the child is confused because the school has been giving all this rosy picture about that religion, but when they go home, the parents are talking about a bigoted view. So, but I would still, was going to say swear by, but I would still stand by the need for religious education, which of course needs to be presented properly so that it's not dogmatic. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have only 2 minutes, no, 1 minute, but Elder Corbitt has a question direct to him
briefly.
and Juan Cruz, and then a few seconds for each one.
And I think Ms. Kaur answered the indigenous question well, and Bonnie's as well. I would just add to the question from Bogotá, que fue muy bien traducida, that the U.S. Constitution began as a document to protect not racial diversity, but religious diversity. It wasn't racial, clearly. It is now, but it was a legal system established to protect just what you said, and their ideal was liberty. And so it works to a large degree. But that liberty includes the right to think that your religion, if you're Muslim, is better than this religion. That's your right to do that. And it's your right to share it. It's about the methods. A big amen to you. Finally, with regard to tolerance, Sheikh, please let me know how that works out when you go home and tell your wife you tolerate her. I'm not going to do that. I like Ramin Mammadov's word. We have gotten to, these forums are so powerful and so useful. I am leaving not with tolerance, but with harmony. He and the Azerbaijani delegation and leadership speak of harmony, not tolerance, and I love that you do that, and that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Juan Cruz. Una palabra porque es
cortito al de Uruguay. Yo creo que tenés toda la razón. Estos temas se quedan en un foro como esto y no bajan a nuestros miembros. Mi presencia en estos foros, yo podría decir que no es el 100% bien vista por la gran mayoría de mi junta inclusive, pero yo creo que poco a poco uno va entendiendo el por qué tenemos que estar juntos y de qué manera lo hacemos. Aclaramos muy bien los puntos que podemos trabajar juntos. Ejemplo, en la comunidad evangélica, la vida, la familia, catástrofes naturales o desastres, problemas con la inmigración y otros temas puntuales. Si nosotros podemos repetir a nuestras bases los puntos que sí podemos trabajar juntos y otros que no, yo creo que ese es un muy buen paso, ¿verdad? Porque en la mente de nuestros feligreses automáticamente piensa que estamos juntos y aceptamos todo. Y no es así. Nosotros vamos a tener diferencias muy marcadas siempre teológicamente, pero cuando el ser humano nos necesita, hay temas que tenemos que trabajar juntos. Por eso en todas mis publicaciones, en los discursos, yo enfatizo por qué la comunidad evangélica está acá. Temas puntuales. Hay otros temas que no podemos negociar, pero estos temas sí, ¿verdad? Entonces así nos funcionó a nosotros, pero tienes toda la razón, ¿verdad? Creo que eso necesitamos bajarlo a las bases.
Gracias, Juan Cruz. Thank you very much. Ramin, something to add to finish? Oh, well, okay.
We are builders.
No, it's okay. Okay. 1 minute.
And builders must be strong. It is important that in building, the foundation must be strong. And the foundation are the values. That's why we talk about interfaith, not interdoctrines. Interfaith implies that we take into account the quality of value systems that bring us together. And together we become builders.
Thank you very much. Now, yes.
I would like to thank my colleagues on the stage and the audience for active interaction. As a conclusion, I would like to thank Mr. Corbitt as well, that he mentioned Azerbaijani approach to intercultural, interreligious dialogue. We consider them not to be tolerated, but live in harmony. The history witnessed to a lot of conflicts, discriminations, even the armed conflicts fueled by religious contents. And when we consider them, examine them, it shows that most of them motivated or ruled by political forces. And in these terms, I do believe that governments, states, and in a wall, and society in particular has to has the responsibility to give the different faces and beliefs to respect to each other, and has the right to exercise their beliefs.
Thank you very much. I would like to say many things, but it's time, so please join me to grateful the panel. I don't know where it's finished. Yes. Please make a photograph together.